Seojun wiped the sweat from his brow, pausing to catch his breath. He ignored the feeling of heavy exhaustion, forcing his eyes to focus. His busy schedule had been able to quiet his mind. From their English classes to the dance lesson he was now in, he knew it was only temporary, but at least it gave him a moment of peace. Alexi tossed him a water bottle, which he happily drank down. His arms and legs ached after pushing himself so hard. An assistant politely knocked on the door, papers in hand. Mr. Seojun asked for each of you to receive one of these. Attendance will be mandatory, she announced and passed the papers to each of the members. She paused before leaving the room. It's late. The design team left hours ago. You should all go get some sleep. Mandatory attendance? JP was puzzled, flipping his paper over. Seojun looked the paper over, being sure to make a mental note of the important details. It's just a company party. Don't stress too much, Alexi assured, trying to stifle a yawn. Seojun was surprised to see the party's date set so soon, 3 days after the music video shoot. It's a good thing they're holding it here. We don't have any time to go party anywhere, Soul stated, twirling a card between his fingers. Seojun couldn't help but wonder how big of a party this was going to be. There was no dress code on the notice, so this was strictly internal. However, there wasn't a room listed yet. The form just said location to be decided or to be announced. The idea of seeing Sylvia there had his stomach twisting with anxiety. Soul, hit it! Seojun straightened into his beginning position. The music pounded through him, drowning out his thoughts as he hit every beat. Sweat beat down from his brow, and his shirt dampened from the long practice. He ignored the twinges in his tired muscles, twisting to meet every move. JP joined in next to him, perfecting his front position for the chorus. The members all danced, their feet landing in a drumming unison. The song ended, and Seojun sat down for the first time in hours, his legs cramping from the effort. Alexi walked over to him, phone in hand. It's well after midnight. I think we should call it a night. Seojun wanted to disagree, but the cramps in his legs intensified as he stood up. All right, let's pack it up. Saori viciously eyed the final notice on her lease, taped to her door. How rude of her landlord to post her business so publicly. She ripped the paper off of her door, crumpling it into a tight ball. She opened the door of her apartment and hurled the ball into her trash can. She looked around her apartment, stacks of half-filled boxes visible in every area. She still had so much packing to do. She set her purse down on top of a large empty box, trying to get settled for the night. Her phone buzzed in her pocket as she picked up a comb, and she sighed. No one ever texts her this late. Sylvia, new girl, was displayed across the screen. Saori scoffed at her phone screen, setting it face down on the desk in her room. Who does this new girl think she is? So unprofessional to directly text us after work. She ran the comb through her hair, untangling it before she climbed into bed. A stack of discarded designs sat on the corner of her desk. She had 1 week until they filmed the music video, and she still had yet to perfect her designs. Pain throbbed in her head as she stressed about the upcoming shoot and her subsequent move. The outfits needed to look right. She grit her teeth, eyeing the stack of imperfect designs. This week was pivotal to her career, and she couldn't think of anything. Her new co-worker's carefree attitude couldn't have come at a more aggravating time. Just because she didn't seem to be bothered by the importance of their work didn't mean Saori would allow any mistakes to show through. She set her comb down on the stack of boxes beside her bed, shifting them closer to the wall. She cleared a stack of paperwork from her bed and turned out her light. The darkness of her room helped soothe the throbbing in her head as she slipped under the cool covers for the night. She had to get the designs done tomorrow, then she could worry about moving. Alexi turned, looking to the back seat. Seojun wanted to sit back there alone, which was highly unusual for him. He had his earbuds in, and the faint sound of their upcoming album was playing. Alexi was determined to figure out what was going on with him. They had been best friends for years, and secrets were never part of their friendship. He was willing to give Seojun the space he needed, but his friend seemed to become more distant each day. Alexi frowned, sitting forward in his seat again. This issue was beginning to bother him deeply. Whatever was bothering Seojun was affecting everyone else too. This needed to be resolved before the music video shoot. Alexi reached over, tapping on Soul's leg. He was busy admiring the rising moon, visible over the city buildings. Soul glanced over, hesitant to look away from the beautiful night sky just outside his window. "Do you have any idea what's bothering Seojun?" he asked, watching Soul for a reaction. Soul sank back into his seat, shaking his head. The only thing he mentioned was the other day at lunch, that important thing he couldn't remember. Other than that, I haven't heard a word about it. Alexi's frown deepened. "We've got to sort this out." Soul nodded, absent-mindedly shuffling his tarot cards. "Have you tried your tarot thing?" Alexi quizzed. Soul paused, looking down at the deck in his hands. "No, I hadn't. Worth a try, I guess." Soul shuffled the cards. Alexi had never been a huge believer in things like this, but he was beginning to feel a tugging desperation to solve this issue. The silent space between him and Seojun was unsettling. Soul continued to shuffle the cards, and then 3 cards flew out at once, landing about the car, including in Alexi's lap. Startled, Alexi playfully shouted, "Hey, hey, don't chuck 'em at me!" before he grabbed the card from off his leg. It was the Knight of Swords. Alexi turned the card to Soul and asked, "Should I be worried?" Soul snickered as he reached for the other 2 cards that had fallen on the floor, one on top of the other. He turned them over and quirked his head. Once he saw what they were, the Queen of Cups and the 6 of Cups. He offered them to Alexi and began to shuffle again. This time 2 cards flew out, and once again they landed on top of each other. He turned them over to reveal the Sun and the High Priestess. "What do they mean, Soul?" Alexi said, concerned at the fact his member looked confused. "I have an idea, but I'm not sure," Soul said, examining the cards that Alexi had handed back to him. "Anything will help at this point. Seojun's distress is affecting all of us, and we need to sort it out before the music video shoot or the staff will get worried," Alexi said, trying to look at the cards. "Well, the Knight of Swords suggests it is the memory recall that Seojun already told us about," Soul explained. But knowing it wouldn't ease Alexi's concern, he continued. "The Queen of Cups, with the 6 of Cups on top, is emotional and subconscious memories of someone returning to his life. So maybe he recognized someone but can't remember what they meant to him." "But it's not anyone we know. Seojun has been very open with us about his friends from outside the company," Alexi muttered. "That's why I got more cards," Soul replied calmly. "The Sun and the High Priestess tell me a successful, creative, female energy, although energy doesn't pertain to gender. So I might need to research some things to understand it more." Alexi sighed, feeling somewhat defeated. "So, even with your magic cards, we're no closer to figuring out what Seojun is going through." "Tarot cards don't give you exact answers, just clues. Maybe we should try asking Hyung again," Soul suggested. Alexi just shook his head. If Seojun didn't tell us that time at lunch, then he doesn't want to share it until he figures it out for himself. Wait, he was different at the cafe, so maybe it started before you 2 met up at the park? Well, the only thing he told me about was... Soul paused momentarily, unsure if Seojun would be okay with him telling Alexi. But the concern etched on Alexi's face urged him to keep speaking. He accidentally ran into Sylvia on her way to the building via subway. But why would that bother him so much? Alexi's confusion was growing as he analyzed the past few days' events. I don't know, but Hyung was very surprised to see her at the company before we were introduced. I may be reading into it, but I think Hyung is attracted to her, Soul said with a sly grin on his face. But it quickly vanished when Alexi turned to him. Being attracted to Sylvia is fine, but what I want to understand is if she is the reason he shut down like this, Alexi stated, concern and frustration bubbling to the surface. Soul and Alexi turned around at the same time to see Seojun fast asleep, breathing calmly, but his face showing tension. They both sighed, hoping that things would be cleared up sooner rather than later.